Welcome to the How to Find and Keep a Gay Man podcast. I'm Matt Bays, your host, with Matt Heinker, your co-host. And we're here to provide bitchy wisdom for the gay man looking for love. There are a lot of gay men out there looking for a meaningful love experience, and we are here to help. You can follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll find all sorts of bitchy wisdom about what it's going to take to find and keep a gay man. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Let me show you this new cup. Come on, boys. Show them your
Show them your heart, not your part.
Not your part.
I tell you what, she's a poet. She really is.
Yes, she is. Merch for How to Find and Keep a Gay Man.
I love
Available at howtofindandkeepagayman.com.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
Oh, you said it's been a hell of a week. What's up?
I'm every woman. It's all in me. This job is crazy. I was in Chicago for 2 days and it was good stuff. But when I go, it's just a lot to plan, and didn't get back till late last night and screech in long enough to help eat something with the kids, get in bed. And the travel is complex when you have as many kids and have as much going on as I do. But we're making it work. It's good. Kind of a funny story though. Last night, get this. It's midnight. I was asleep. I didn't get till this morning. And I get this picture. My friend Alex. Have you met my friend Alex?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you guys dated once upon a time, and I went to his bar to meet him.
I forgot.
Yes. Yeah, and true story, he just kind of blew me off. He was nice. We texted for a second, but I thought, this boy is just not interested.
He is our core audience because he would love to be in a relationship and he cannot follow through. He's one of those in that bucket. God bless him.
Well, I was like, here I am.
Okay, hello.
I'm ready and waiting. I was like, let's go on a date. Because you said he was really nice. And I was like, this would be fun. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, after Ty and I had been together for a while, I reconnected with him and we're all friends. We hang out a little bit. But anyway, I get this picture from him last night. There's a picture of him with his arm around Stephanie.
Shut up.
And I was like, what is happening?
Your ex-wife, can we clarify?
Stephanie. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the actual hell? Well, he meets this beautiful woman at a bar and starts chatting with her. She's like, yeah, I'm a divorcee. My husband came out. And he was like, is your husband's name Matt?
Holy shit.
It's like total moment and like connected. And he met
That's
Stephanie.
Awesome.
Total random occurrence.
Oh, dear Lord.
My worlds collided last night. So
yeah. I was just talking to somebody this week that was thinking about a breakup, which we're going to be talking about today. That's our two-part series, is breakups. And then next week will be better together.
Better together.
I was talking to somebody this week who was trying to make a mature decision on there's distance between us. Sure. His work schedule is crazy. I don't know that I want to get invested in all that, but I really do like him. What do I do?
Yeah.
And that's where I have to say, when you can articulate it that clearly, there's no other information that you need. You just have to make a decision for what's best for you.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And I think sometimes we think that a decision is comfortable or with ease. Now, a decision can be made with clarity, but not always is it comfortable. It still may be complicated, difficult to pull the trigger and make that decision. But then that person came back and said, you know what? I don't think that we need to make this decision right now. We're going to give it a month and we're going to see if it's something that we can both deal with. And I was like, I love
that. Love that. Yes.
Grown. It's grown.
I was just about to say, come through grown. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really think I think that falls in line with what we're talking about today too. Like, I love that you said, just because it's the correct decision doesn't mean that it's easy. I love that because I think that that's a really important thing to remember. You know, it was correct for me to come out and get a divorce. Hardest decision I ever made in my life, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's good. But these two boys taking a deep breath, seeing how it goes the next little while, I think that's really good. Yeah.
It was actually a straight couple, so they still do obviously have some growing to do till they can come around to see the light.
Well, how was your week other than recovering from COVID?
My week was fine. I'm in my gay choir.
Yes.
There is an older gentleman in that choir who is just all over Grinder. He
With
is
success?
oh yeah.
Really?
Yes. And he is doing his thing because listen, he didn't come out till he was like 70.
Oh, Lord.
So he's making the most of it now.
So he's in his 70s up on the grinder.
Yeah. And listen, every week I come in and I'm like, I can't wait for break because I need to pick his brain and figure out what's happening, which is always plenty. So I had the conversation with him, which was very enjoyable to find out who's next.
What is the median age of the gentleman he is calling on off the grinder?
Well, that just may be a future episode because typically they are in their 20s.
Oh my.
Date your own kind, because that's a different species.
I don't
when
have
you're 70 and you're 20. Yeah. Listen, you do what you got to do for now. But if we're talking about finding and keeping someone, it may require a little roll into the middle.
Just a little. I would agree.
Anyway, yeah, it's been a good week. So it's true. This is airing 2 days after Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So I think we can talk about breakups. I think it's not too soon. I think it's an important issue.
Breaking up is hard to do.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And we're going to get into it.
I feel like I usually start with the thoughts. Maybe you should start with the thoughts this week.
I thought we could just talk explicitly about breakups, all that goes into that. And I am happy to share a breakup that I went through. I've definitely hinted at before and talked about it, but to review what that is, because breaking up is not just one thing. It's different things to different people. But then I also thought it would be good to turn the corner at some point and talk about how to break up.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Love that.
Yeah. Because I think most people, I'm not going to just say the gay community, I think most people, gay, straight, and other, are bad at breaking up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking about, it's kind of funny. I feel like when I look at the community that's around me, we've got two extremes. You've got people who, like the gentleman we spoke about earlier, a good friend of mine, who breaks up with anybody he's dating within a few months over and over and over again. You just cannot move forward with a relationship and commit and make it something. And then I've got people on the far other end of the spectrum who it's time for them to break up. Like, really, they need the strength to realize and follow through with that for their own sanity. I always think, why don't they break up? Like people that are in, really in a spot where it's pretty obvious that they're dysfunctional and maybe not good for each other. And I was reading a little bit about that this week. And I mean, a common theme said people are afraid to be alone. So people don't break up because they just really are very scared to be by themselves. They feel like they don't have as much value on their own. Another popular one that I read about that I thought was kind of interesting was called sunk cost fallacy. I've already invested so much time and effort in this relationship. I can't give up now. We've been together this long, so there's no way that we're going to break up now. We've worked too hard. We've been together too long. And a lot of people are just content to ignore the signs until they no longer can. So, we talked a lot about in the last episode about how we don't try hard enough to work on the relationship when hard things come up. And I think the harder thing, maybe just as hard, if not harder, is being in a place where you realize that what this relationship is not good for you, or this isn't, we talk about how important a good match is. This really, at the end of the day, is not a good match for me. And for these reasons that are meaningful. And I have to your point earlier, make the correct but not easy decision to follow through with ending it, Yeah. And I think that's a really hard call to make on your own. One of the many reasons why you need community and a therapist.
I think we can make it very simple. Like sometimes we think it's so difficult. Do we want to be with them any longer? Do we not want to be with them any longer? And just asking yourself, do I like this person?
Yeah.
That is the simplest way of figuring out, where am I on this? Do I actually like this person? Do I want to be, if there are no consequences, do I want to be with this person?
Yeah.
Now, I've been in relationships before where the answer to that was no, but I still felt compelled to keep it together.
Yeah.
When the answer was, this is not a person that I want to be with.
Yeah. Don't you think that it's inevitable, even with a good pairing, though, if you go through really rough seasons where you might feel like, I don't like this person right now because we've got this really hard conflict that we're in different ages on, you know?
Sure. I think that can come out in a, oh, this person is on my nerves right now. Like I need some time away.
For sure. Yeah.
Great. But I think the kind of relationship I would like to be in is a relationship where deep down inside my knower, in my gut and in my heart, there is not a time that I don't want to be without this person as my partner.
For sure.
There is potentially a person out there that is better for me than Chris.
Potentially.
I mean, there's 8 billion people out there, right?
Yeah.
But I swear to God, if you found them, I don't care what they looked like, and you lined them up next to Chris and said, choose, this person is going to be actually better for you, I would choose Chris.
Yeah.
Because he meets my non-negotiables. I'm in love with him. And outside of what he can do for me, this is a person that I've chosen to give my heart and my love to.
And even if and when things are hard, you know, in your, like you said, in your knower, in your gut, you know that you're connected to him and don't ever not want to be. And that really propels you through a lot of things. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But when you're in the dating relationship at figuring out, is this a person that I want to continue to be with, especially if you're flirting with the idea of breakup, that's what I want us to take some time to look at. Is this a relationship worth saving, or is it a relationship that needs to go?
Yeah. I think in my research for this, I found an article that I thought was pretty compelling on this. When this is happening, these are clear signs that the relationship potentially needs to go. They called it the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Okay.
So the first one was criticism. So you're inevitably going to have conflict, you know, when you're with a long-term partner or whatever. But when they are critical of who you are on a regular basis, that shows that there's a breakdown in respect and regard for you. And that has to be corrected before, you know, you can move forward in a healthy way and even work on the relationship. The second one was defensive-ness. If your partner is not able to hear their part in conflict, or to hear how what they specifically did made you feel without being defensive and throwing it back in your face, if you're in one of those types of situations, that's another huge red flag. So they said the worst of the 4 are contempt and stonewalling. So when you're in a place where you're so angry with each other, you resent each other, and you struggle to even treat each other with a baseline of respect, huge red flag. And stonewalling is the worst, when you do anything but actually force yourself to communicate. You put up walls, you avoid each other, you've stopped making effort to work on the relationship. So when you see evidence of those 4 things, those are things that your relationship might be moving in a toxic direction. Yeah. And you've got to make some really critical decisions when things that serious pop up in your relationship.
Do you remember in that movie we talked about a couple of weeks ago, spoiler alert, when they sat before their therapist and they argued and they said all the things, and finally the man just said, here's what I think's going on here. Yeah. He said, basically, you're angry with one another. And it was contempt. That's what it felt like. That's
it was contempt. But you love each other too much to let each other go.
Yep. So you're gonna take a break. Take a break. And I thought that was good, because that's when you get to decide, is this worth it to keep this relationship together? Because sometimes it's not really the relationship as much as it is me and where I am in my life, what shit I haven't sifted through yet, or the partner, what they haven't sifted through yet. So those are decisions that we have to make.
And I thought that, you know, that movie was really interesting because it was a really good example of where anyone can get to. They were, from what we could see, very compatible, had a really great life that they built together. Yeah. But over time, they've been together at this point 13 years, I think. Over time, they just had developed bad patterns. We are not tending to the relationship, things we've talked about in previous episodes. We're not caring for each other. We're not showing up for each other emotionally and physically. So they reach that, and that happens over and over again until they reach a point where they resent each other. Yeah. And so that was a perfect example of a relationship. They didn't need to get all the way there, but they lost sight on what they need to do every day to maintain that relationship.
Matt, I knew someone who, in their relationship, one partner would not work on the relationship, no matter how hard the other one was trying to hold it together and trying to say, we have to figure this. The other person wouldn't. Now, in the breakup, that other person that wouldn't work is very frustrated with how things have panned out as they are dividing up assets or figuring out all the stuff that comes from massive breakup like that. And I want to go back in time and say to that partner who wouldn't work before, do you know how hard this is going to be to break this apart? I promise you, the work you're afraid to put in now is not as hard as what's going to happen if you don't. You know, absolutely. This is a person who really wants you. They want you. And you are completely resistant, stonewalling. But it's about to get really ugly on the other side of this, because this person is telling you, if you don't invest, if we don't move forward together, I'm separating from you. And what has happened as a result of that separation has been devastating. To him, to that partner who wouldn't move forward.
For sure.
And now he's so frustrated. He's so angry. And it's like, this is, it's tough to see when you're in the midst of it, isn't it? It's hard to see.
You can't escape the work that you're going to be required to do.
It's coming for you.
It's coming for you. Exactly.
One way or the other.
One way or the other
for you. So I only have one other really significant relationship outside of, my marriage, when I was married for 23 years. And that breakup I did not see coming, but there were some non-negotiables that weren't being met for me. And so I just kind of pulled the trigger on the breakup. I'd been talking about it for a couple of years. It didn't seem like anything was changing. It doesn't mean anybody's bad. Nobody's villainized here, right?
For sure.
Which is a part of how to break up that we can address later. But it just wasn't the right pairing. Okay. But then we broke up. Honey, that was not working for me. I didn't want to be broke up. I was but we took our relationship off life support. We called it quits. And then a week later, I swear to God, we got out the defibrillator paddles, yelled clear, and tried to revive it. Because we didn't want it to be over. We loved each other. And thought maybe we could work it out, blah, blah, blah. And so for the next several months, we did our best to resurrect what was already dead and gone. But our love story, as we knew it, it was over, And that felt devastating to me because I didn't want it to be.
In the midst of all that confusion, you said, but our love story was over. So how did you, in the midst of that confusion, that back and forth, the negotiation of all of that, know in your gut, you got to a point where it was clear that it was over? How did you know that?
There was nothing at rest in my spirit during that time that I was trying to put it back together. It was entirely driven by fear and desperation. I couldn't sleep. I lost 14 pounds. I couldn't eat. I exercised more than everyone. It was one of the most difficult times of my life. And I kept shoving myself forward to try to make this work, Matt. And it was but there was no peace around it. No wholeness. So when I stop and inventory that now, I know that if I'm in space like that, like nothing good is happening here. This is not what love should feel like.
Exactly.
If this was supposed to be, and you were both in a good place to do this, it would not be met with so much crazy.
Yes. Fear and desperation should not be mixed in the emotions here.
And they weren't just a little dab of fear. I mean, it was a constant theme from the moment I got up to the moment I went to bed. It was very shocking to me that at my age that I was facing that kind of thing. But hey, love is messy. You heard?
It is. I remember you during this time. It was something.
I've never cried so much in my life.
But I think I love that you said I was not at peace. I think we would both say about our current relationships, I am deeply satisfied, but I'm also at rest. I am at peace with this man. I think that is a really, really important thing. Like, you go through hard stuff, you got to reach for that, see if that's there. But I also think that you made a good point that we didn't really talk about very much in that one person can be very devoted to the relationship and dealing with their stuff and moving it forward, working through conflict, whatever. But if both of you are not on the same page, there's not a lot that's going to get done. You both have to be willing or healthy enough to want the relationship and work on it. And that imbalance happens quite a bit. I think in the relationships that we see with our friends that we think probably need to be done, there's one that's like clinging to it, and there's one that's like not trying to do anything, but just
and the one that is clinging to it, we've been there. I've been there. That's where I was clinging to it for dear life. I had a friend say to me, do you really want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with you? The answer was supposed to be no. It wasn't for me. I was like, yes, I don't care if he doesn't want to be with me. I'm going to put him in my pocket and I'm not going to ever let him go.
I'm not leaving and you're going to love me.
Yes, exactly. But in clear thinking, without so much trauma around it, that's a really great question, because I do want to be with somebody who wants to be with me. That feels really good. Yeah, because you're not chasing the rest of your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't want crazy. On your dating profile, you were looking for a peaceful man. Okay.
Yeah.
You got one.
Listen, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to end a relationship that is no longer good for us, especially when we love them.
Absolutely.
But if we are going to find our gay man, the kind worth keeping, we might have to let go of a love that isn't working.
Absolutely.
So I have just a short commercial break.
Yes, please.
And I would call it your breakup survival kit, is what I would call it. Here's what was in my breakup survival kit: a therapist, right? Friends who get me and understand, a bucket of fried chicken, Celine Dion, good pajamas, Netflix, pizza. Oh, spoke to my heart. A gym membership, resources like how to find and keep a gay man.
Oh, yes. Preach now.
Hanging out with us, a cozy bed, ice cream, and all the patience you can muster. That was in my survival kit. Celine Dion. I mean, I'm sitting in my car all by myself. And I mean, just like, God, I am by myself now.
That's a lot to do to yourself. Wow.
But that is it's a really good, here's what I told myself later. If the love hurts that bad, I think a lot of times, Matt, it's because you've really put your back into it.
For sure. Yeah.
You loved hard. And when it was taken away, you lost your mind. I mean, we've all seen it in the movies. There are some people that like break up and they're like, he's an asshole, and they just move on.
That's usually overcompensation for the enormous sadness that someone feels. But talking like that.
Anger is a secondary emotion.
Yes, it is.
First time I heard that about flip the table, I was like, motherfucker, don't come for me. That's great, isn't it? Every time I get angry, I'm like, Matt, what's beneath the anger now?
What's really happening?
Yeah, yes. Like, what I ain't sad. I don't care. Bullshit. Speaking of ice cream, listen, in your survival kit, you need to check out Grader's new midnight snack.
What is that? I'm scared to ask. What's in it?
Honey, Jesus has stirred it up with his finger, and I do not know all that God has thrown in that ice cream.
But it's for you. He came to bless you with it.
He was very choosy. Yeah.
So how do we break up? Well, Okay. We don't do
All
it
right.
over text.
Oh my God. That goes without saying.
You know what? When I
I
was
mean,
out in these
unless you
streets,
just can't get them on the horn and can't get them over to your place. And I think it depends too. I mean, use your head. If you've had 3 dates, you can break up on text
for sure.
and just say, hey, that's just not a match. But you've been together for a good time. You got a relationship. Don't you dare think about texting. And
Don't
that's
text.
all that has to be said about that.
Okay.
Let's move on to more important things.
I think that it's really important. Okay, we don't text, but we also don't burn bridges. I think when you break up in anger, it's just not good. It doesn't need to be like that. I think that you will feel better if you're able to get to a place where you're just like, hey, to your point, if you do still love the person, I think it's beautiful to even say that and to thank them for the time that you had together. And with respect, point out the differences that are making this breakup necessary, but you wish them well. If you can go down that kind of a path, I think that's the best for everyone's mental health, you know?
Brene talks about being clear but kind.
Clear but kind. Yes. Thank you, Brene.
Yes, Queen Brene, we thank you. I love that idea because I don't have to get the other person to understand why, because they may not. I mean, we're dealing with a whole host of different kinds of people. There are some people that are a nightmare to break up with, and then there are some that can actually be civil. So if you're in a complicated, complex breakup with somebody who doesn't want it, is going to tell you all the reasons that you're wrong, even though you want to break up. At some point, you have to stop assessing whether or not you've explained it well enough.
Yes, I think that's a really good point. Like just like you have to have two people to work on the relationship and get it through a hard patch, to break up amicably and with respect requires two people that are sane and have done the work as well. I dated some guys before Ty, and one of them completely lost his mind when I was trying to be clear and kind and slammed my door and broke one of the windows in my house. So he wasn't in a place where he was mature enough emotionally to even receive very civil discussion I was trying to have. So to your point, you know, that can be part of it as well, but it doesn't remove the obligation that you have to be clear and kind and respectful.
And when somebody shows you their ass, believe them.
Oh yeah.
When they show you who they are, believe them. You mentioned not to break up in a fight. So
for sure.
If there's a screaming match going on or whatever, I don't think we hastily throw out the words, that's it, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. I think that is a point where we have to step away from the relationship if we need to.
Sure.
But even to come back and say, look, I need some time to think, I need some time to clear my head. You know, so that you're not saying things that all of a sudden when you start introducing I'm done and throwing the fit and walking out of the room, then they start doing that too. And then you're living with the threat of somebody's going to leave me if we have too big of a fight. So then you're not saying the things that you need to say anymore because you're afraid they're going to leave you. No empty threats.
I love
if somebody said to me, I'm done with you, this is over, I would say, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to be with somebody who's going to threaten me with our relationship.
And that's someone that's not mature enough to give you what you need in a relationship, you know?
Yeah.
So that's evidence of that for sure.
Yeah. I have some people scrolling through my head of really nice guys who need to break up.
Yes.
And
me too.
It is not in their wheelhouse to come to the bargaining table or the breakup table and say, this relationship has run its course. Thank you for all that I've received from it.
I don't have enough self-esteem to end this relationship, even though I know I should. I'm going to literally hang on until it burns to the ground and I'm destroyed. Like that is what I clearly see in some situations. And that breaks my heart. And so I think, you know, we talked about it in previous episodes, like this lack of confidence, this lack of worthiness that, you know, a lot of us feel, you know, I think that that's reared its ugly head when people are in that place. And so it's hard to coach somebody through that. Again, get a therapist. You've got to be aware if you're that person in the relationship, first of all. I think a lot of people that are in that category don't see themselves that way, or they're not able to see it clearly and move forward differently.
Just to finish that idea, first of all, the nice guy. If you're always the nice guy and you're in a relationship that you have realized that you don't want, when is it going to be easy to break up? It's not.
Yeah.
Especially for you. Some people can do that and it doesn't seem to bother them. They're pretty practical and, this isn't right for me, so therefore it must not be right for them. We need to break up. But for the nice guy, that's a real struggle for them. Get a damn therapist.
Yes.
Figure out how to say what it is that you need. And if you cannot get what you need from the relationship, you have to do the hard thing. Another thing Brene talks is telling the truth even when our voice shakes.
Oh, yeah.
It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
But it still is necessary so that you can have a good life.
The hard right thing.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, do we talk to the guy on the other end of that equation? Like the guy I would put myself in this category. Like maybe you're prone to be critical or the dominant one or in the relationship. And are you aware of ways in which you're not caring for your partner or ways in which you might be dominant and their needs are not being met?
Tell me more about that, because it's my job to represent what my needs are.
Yeah.
But it is also your job to pay attention.
Absolutely. I think if you're in healthy space, you realize that the relationship is not going to feel complete and whole and peaceful. And I'm not going to feel super great about myself if my needs are the primary ones that are addressed and met in the relationship. If I'm not being in tune with my partner and caring for them with the same amount of effort that they're caring for me, the relationship's going to be out of whack. But I'm also ironically not going to feel good either, because no one who's selfish ever is at peace, Right. So I think being aware of the fact that maybe you can be the dominant type A, us Enneagram 8s, man, we can use our power for good or evil. So are you caring for your partner with the same amount of effort that they are for you? Are you in tune with them?
Well, last week you said something really important about how, look, a relationship, it's not just for you to meet your needs. This relationship exists for you to care for another person, for you to love another person. And whenever we're in a relationship where we're trying to get mine, it's going to cause problems.
It's going to go sideways.
Yeah, we have to be thinking about the other person. For some people, that comes really naturally.
Yeah.
Where they just tend to be more naturally selfless.
For sure. Absolutely.
Maybe that's how they're wired. But please do not tell me I'm just a selfish person.
No.
And that you've laid claim to that, driven a stake into that selfishness, and this is just who I am.
That's just laziness. And the ironic thing is that if you are focused on each other's needs, if that is a continual focus, everything works out. There's peace in the relationship when both people are committed to being in tune with each other and each other's needs. And I think that's the sweet spot,
Well, and Matt, now all of this goes out the window if you're not with the person that you should be with.
Absolutely.
That meets your non-negotiables. That is a good
pair.
That's the base.
When you're not, and the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse start rearing their ugly heads in your relationship over time, maybe you're not with the right person.
Yeah.
And you got to make the hard but correct decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My breakup actually went really well. There was an expanse of time where we didn't see one another.
Yeah.
And now occasionally there are phone calls. It's good considering all the heartbreak that was there. Everybody came back to zero, and it's been a relationship that actually has been a friendship.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah.
I don't think that can always happen. And listen, it's not like we're up in each other's business all the time or whatever, but I'm not going to see this person on the street and be uncomfortable.
Sure.
And so there is a way to break up, to do it with integrity.
Yeah. I mean, I think as gay men over 30, we've been through some stuff. And for me, I'm like, if it's possible to still be at peace with this person in your community and for you to continue to uplift each other, even in a different way, pursue that if it's possible. It's beautiful. The people that I've dated, with the exception of the gentleman who slammed the door and broke my window, I have remained friendly with every person that I've dated and even hooked them up with each other. So I think that's really cool. I want peace in my life in every way that I can have it. So if we can peacefully break up and move forward as friends, if that's possible, it's a really great thing to reach for.
You've said so many things already in this podcast that I have held onto that I just really love. And one of the other things that you said, owning your part.
Oh, yes.
You talked about doing a postmortem on a relationship after has ended, and So often what I find happening with people is when they talk about the relationship, all they talk about is all of the awful that that person was. And
Yes.
like, and somehow they're the survivor who
Mm-hmm.
survived this hurricane of a person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's true, but certainly not always. And even if we survived a hurricane of a person, we have to ask ourselves, what's our part in that? How
Mm-hmm.
is it that we keep choosing people like that?
Absolutely.
It's never going to do any good for you to continue to focus on that other person. If I'm
Yeah.
not the problem, then there is no solution.
If your picker is off, you're going to be doing a lot of breaking that. So get your head
Yeah.
around that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So what am I doing wrong is a very important question. Spend your time there in therapy. Help me understand why it is that I keep picking them wrong, why I
Mm-hmm.
can't stay with them, why my jealousy or possessiveness seems to run them out the door,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
why they keep saying that they can't emotionally connect to me, that I seem
Mm-hmm.
closed or shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Those patterns are really important.
Mm-hmm.
And I had patterns
Yeah.
in my relationships. I had patterns and I recognized those patterns. It took me a long time to. And once I
Mm-hmm.
recognized them, I thought, oh,
Here we go.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you one more thing. So sometimes a breakup happens for no definable reason. I'm not sure why. It was a good relationship. It was comfortable for a time, but then over time, it just kind of stopped being comfortable, stopped being passionate.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about there are times in our relationships where we have to work really hard to get over those humps.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that? When the relationship is just
When it just is done,
when it just fizzles.
the
Yeah,
relationship
and
is
you
complete.
decide, are we going to try to revive this thing or are we going to take it off life support?
Yeah. The first guy I dated, we had good chemistry. He was very sweet, like just he was a gentleman. And we enjoyed each other's company. But over time, over a few months, we realized that we really didn't have a ton in common. He was into geology and he watched really weird shows and he read really heady, strange books. And I'm this extra like music art guy over here. And I mean, I look back on that whole experience with fondness, but he just wasn't my guy, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And there was no cataclysmic reason that we stopped dating other than I think we both knew that we weren't each other's person or a deep love connection. And I think that's okay.
And the reason I ask that, Matt, is because I think sometimes people can get confused on like, there's really nothing wrong here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are we breaking up? Maybe we shouldn't, and that's not always the case. You really got to be in tune with yourself here and,
You
and,
do.
and don't overcomplicate it. And that's why I come back to that question. Do you like him? Does he like you?
When Ty and I were dating, I've shared in previous episodes that he was not on my radar to be a partner of mine romantically in the beginning. And we just kind of gradually started to spend time alone together. And what I realized pretty quickly is that I couldn't wait to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just wanted to be with him, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that those types of feelings come over you when you're approaching or when you're entering into a relationship or getting to know someone who is a good pair. So I had this feeling that I couldn't really describe other than I just wanted to be near him. And
Yeah.
so to your point, you got to be really in tune with what it is that you want. How do you feel in your gut? Do you in your gut really believe that this is someone that might be a long-term for you if you both were serious about it? Do all the work that you can to make sure that you're clear on that.
Yeah. Maybe we can end here. For those people who are listening because they're considering a breakup and that is something that causes them duress or stress, it's not something you have to do today.
Sure.
It's something that you can continue to research information, have conversations, begin the process of thinking about what that looks like and why you would do that so that you're clear. But listen to your gut. You already know what to do. You already know what the answer is. You just have to push those other things aside, what the consequences, what the fallout might look like, how he might respond, all of those things, and just stand in your truth that this is not a person that I see myself with long term. And that's okay.
And that's okay. And your decision cannot be driven by fear, scarcity, not wanting to be alone, these things that all fall into the bucket of fear driven.
Yeah.
It has to be you in integrity with yourself, peaceful about what you know is true and correct, even if it's hard.
Yeah. And then get yourself that breakup survival kit, because once it happens,
it's golden
it's
girls.
hard.
It's golden girls and Neapolitan for a while. And that's okay, you know?
Listen, I listened to Abraham Hicks, like while I was watering the flowers. I went on walks and listened to every Brene Brown book all over again and cried while I was doing it. I prayed to Jesus, to Muhammad, to anybody who would hear my prayers. Deliver me. I'm so sad. I can't breathe.
Oh,
I can't sleep. I can't eat.
But Ayanla says, don't be afraid of heartbreak. It's not going to kill you.
Well, and then the good thing that we always talk about, our love is portable. We think we'll never have love like that again. But that love can transfer. That love that we felt for them belongs to us.
Honey.
It is not something that they created within us. It is because we decided to love like that. And we can take that love with us and lavish it on somebody else.
My love is portable. That's on the next mug, because I love that. People need to remember that.
On the next one, we're going to talk about better together, what it looks like to stay together. Oh, I didn't even mention my book. This was the time to plug my book.
It was. Come on, tell us about your book now.
That breakup impacted me so deeply that I am a writer. So I went on a road trip out west and I actually wrote a book. If anybody is interested, that book is called Leather and Lace, A Gay Man. Here it is, Lost Love and a Road Trip with His Dead Sister. And you want to look at processing a breakup? Right here. It is all in there.
That is a
People
good read.
say to write from a scar, not a wound. I did not take that advice on that.
That book was a gaping wound.
Oh, God. It was a gaping wound. A big, wonderful experience for me. That was a setup for something that I have now that is just more fulfilling than I could have ever imagined.
And I will tell our listeners that you wrote from a gaping wound, but ironically, the book is quite funny in many parts. And it's a great read. At the end, I cried like a baby. On the airplane, I just wept. And I called you and I was like, I love you so much. Gee, Lord, God damn it, this book. I just love you. I'm glad you're okay. I mean, so everybody needs to read it. That's good.
All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye for now. We love you all, and be in pieces and not peace. Have peace and not pieces. And love yourself till you can't love nobody else.
Amen, honey. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's it for us today. For more bitchy wisdom, follow How to Find and Keep a Gay Man on Instagram and TikTok at, you guessed it, How to Find and Keep a Gay Man. And until we meet again, get a therapist, don't be an asshole, protect yourself, call your mom, and remember that you deserve a meaningful love. Bye.